Buenos días. Vamos a empezar hoy la sesión con el profesor arquitecto Javier Terrados Cepeda. Es profesor de proyectos de aquí de la Escuela de Arquitectura de Sevilla. Ha sido invitado por diversas universidades, en Londres, en Panamá, en Barcelona, Valencia y en otras. Y su labor como investigador principal es el desarrollo, por ejemplo, de la vivienda desmontable tipo kit, y ha participado como director en el proyecto Solar Kit de Solar de Carlón en los años 2010 y 2012, además de otras menciones como arquitecto. Le dejo ya, le paso la palabra y antes de todo, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, José. First of all, I don't want to leave the chance to pay my personal tribute to Felix Skrig, whom everyone here in the school remembers and keeps nice memories of him. He was my teacher in Structures 3 and Structural Practice in the last year of architecture. And I have to say that there in his courses I found a professor with a broad architectural sensibility and knowledge. And for the first time, long ago now, I realized that a deep understanding of a structural system could be a way to discover some of the true keys of architecture. So I don't want to leave that chance to pay that tribute to Felix, who also was a good friend of mine. And now, after all we have done all these years since then, I teach design here in the school, but also I've been responsible for some research projects in the field of lightweight architecture. After all these years, after all we have done these years, relating this research on light construction, housing, above all, I find that this appeal on light, transformable, movable, and easy-handle architecture has its beginning in those classes by Felix. The set of projects I'm going to show now are prototype projects. In this presentation, are the result of a long period of research about the implications of the lightweight and transformable construction in modern housing. All that began as a theoretical research on some of the concepts of the modern housing, and then it became real construction research. There's a common place relating modern architectural icons like Ville Savoie, Farnsworth House, Le Corbusier, Mies, etc., that consider that these achievements are the consequence of formal developments, or at most of, let's say, new materials developings or bold structures developings, and so on. But during this period of research we've done all these years, we try to focus not in what we can see in modern housing, above all, in modern architecture, more on what you can see, on the formal aspects of architecture, but what modern movement have leave us in terms of something that you cannot see, which are the aims of modern housing in terms of some invisible concepts. Let me extend, as a previous part of this presentation, in these components, in what we consider the non-visual components of modern housing, because this research on this kind of concepts was the basis of what we've done in lightweight prototypes and proposals for ephemeral or for movable or housing. So what I'm going to show now is some, not much order, but like a brainstorming of these non-visual aims of modern housing that we try to treat as a basis for our research after in creating a new step in let's say prefab housing, modern housing. One of them was what we call the industrial appeal. As a result of the veneration of the triumphant industrial products like the automobile, the industrial appeal was one of the keys of the modern housing project. The other one was the search for the fast construction, also as a consequence of the industrial processes that they were looking for. The other one was the efficiency in weight, something that is much related to what you've been seeing in this conference. The other one that we found in this kind of research through the main concept of the modern housing project was the benefits of the small scale. One of the main issues in the agenda of modern architecture was to substitute size by convenience. And that meant to adopt a different attitude to the scale. In certain circumstances, a small domestic space could be good, comfortable, and well-occupied domestic space instead of big domestic space. Other feature we found in this kind of journey through the modern housing agenda was the search for easy handle materials, like for example, all kind of boards like plywood, all kinds of these materials that appeared in the scene of architectural housing and modern housing at the beginning of the 20th century. These years saw the developing of the new light materials, like, for example, plywood, and other kind of resistant and even outdoor resistant panels that made possible to build light and easy. We found another feature in this journey, which was the search for fluid space. This is obviously not a modern project, but it does well as an illustration of that. The search for fluid space and thick habitable walls. New slender minimal structural system allowed reconsidering the role of the envelope. In ancient times, buildings needed thick envelopes. We can also deal now with thick envelopes, but in these times, as it happened in all medieval towers, they can house spaces because the envelope can have another kind of structural light that can leave space to that kind of new spaces in the envelope. Other concept we found essential in the modern housing project was the new role of storage, the closets. The Western modern house is the place for both persons and belongings, not only for persons but also for objects. So wardrobes, cupboards, closets give architectural shape to the place of object, and we can use them to define the limits of the place for the person. So what's going to be the role of the storage in the house could be something that could be related to the way we build the envelopes, the partitions, the structures. It's something that intrigued us all those years. Finally, it ended up being a key factor of what we proposed and what I'm going to show you after. Other concept was the theory of supports that probably comes from, for the first time, from Le Corbusier and his image of the battle rack. This idea is to divide every housing building into types of components: the supports, the permanent, the infrastructure in a wide sense, that depends on communal decisions, and the separable parts, lightweight, removable, that depend on individual decisions. The first ones are the territory of massive construction, and the seconds is the territory of transformable light construction. This is an image of the plan obus from Le Corbusier, where you can see the permanent, heavy, massive infrastructure and the light changing, individual, movable, separable part. Other concept that is in the base of what ended up being our project was the research on the ingredients of domesticity. The sense of domesticity is probably more in the furniture, in the small scale components, than in the general layout of the architecture that makes the house. The architectural critic Witold Rydzyński, who has written a lot about the history of the domestic space, has a nice theory. His theory is that history of domestic space is the history of furniture rather than the history of architecture in capital letters. So furniture was another key factor, what we were trying to discover in this period of our work. Other concept was the thinking about diffuse structure, lightweight structure, saying finally to be diffuse structure that somehow merge with the envelope or somehow disappear in the whole shape of the building. Other area of our research for thinking about lightweight construction sections, which could be something more familiar for architects in other parts of the world, but here in the Mediterranean environment, in our area, it's kind of a change of paradigm, thinking not in the mass as the way to defend from the environment, instead of mass, thinking about layers, thinking about something that is light, but even though can deal with the climate, with the defense from the temperature conditions and so on, using light sections instead of mass. That was an important part of our research here in Seville. Other one was to think about what happens to architecture, and particularly to housing, modern housing, when you are not in the center of the modern movement countries, let's say Central Europe, but you are in the rest of the world, and we are used to see the international style, the modern forms of architecture related to works that were done in Central Europe mainly. And in those areas, the relations with the habitat, with the climate, it's quite different to that of the rest of the world. So something happens to architecture when it has to deal strongly with another kind of climate. They can be very modern, not having the visual aspect of the icons of the Central Europe modern movement architecture and houses. So that was an interesting part of our journey through the modern housing architecture. Now I simply named then the concept and go on. Other one was thinking about other ways to name the domestic space. We have to ask ourselves, if all the types of spaces that we want for the house can be compressed in a few words like bedroom, bathroom, living room, kitchen, and corridor, and a few more. Maybe it's time to think about the house with other names, to somehow free the imagination, somehow let the creativity flow through other directions. Other concept was thinking about the experience of playing. The philosopher Jan Huizinga, is a Dutch one, states that there's an inner appeal in every man for playing. There's an inner appeal in every one of us, in every society. To play houses is another archetypical feeling that we have to play with houses. Certain type of construction could allow introducing playing, the joy of playing, both in designing and building. Another area of study previous to the prototypes we did was thinking about the architecture of components. As in industrial products happens, components that can be made off site and assembled with a set of instructions. Thinking about also informality. Why domestic architecture must be formal, stable, packed in a simple shape? Why can it not be as informal as life inside houses? So we try to introduce this kind of informality in the prototypes we thought we began doing. We thought about also another consequence of thinking on architecture of components, which was trying to devise or trying to design systems of kits of parts. In some regions of the world, not in our area, it's not strange to find houses made from kits of parts, built in the same way we assemble a cupboard that we buy in a department store. It's very usual that we can assemble by ourselves a big cupboard, a big closet from a flat pack that we buy in a department store. So why couldn't we bring this kind of operations to the building of the house? Something similar, working with a kit of parts. Relating to other concept, told you before, the other names for the spaces, is the thinking about new uses and new programs for the house. Why to think only or mainly in a nuclear family as for the canonical house, now that this type of living is a sort of minority. New programs, new users, new ways to inhabit, and try to find a flexible, transformable, and new architecture that give space to that new way of living, in which the nuclear family is not the majority. Other concept. Think about something that the modern housing has left us, is the device of working with islands in the houses. Instead of using partitions, walls, doors, working with compact elements with the service space inside that can work as divisions of the space that can combine seclusion and visual continuity at the same time. This use of islands, service spaces, packed in boxes, inserted between main spaces. Something that relates to, I think, to all the concepts I'm talking about now, is thinking about haptic experiences instead of visual experiences. The house is experienced by all senses, not only by sight, and probably in certain moments, mainly with other senses than sight. So this is could be kind of a manifesto against photography as the main way to show or understanding architecture. Try to think about the house in terms of other senses rather than not only the sight. Research also, and thinking also about bringing not high technologies to the house, but another kind of technologies, relaxed technologies, bricolage. A vindication of the user-friendly technologies that allow participation. This is a consequence of many of the other concepts. This is affordability, low cost. Participation has also something to do with affordability. Simplify, be practical to achieve low cost. Compact architecture. We that dwell in Mediterranean cities and environments know a lot about the benefits of living compact, not only in terms of climate response, but also in the benefits of living more close one to another, and to do more efficient housing and architecture, to minimize also the ecological footprints of the buildings. That's important also. The voice of the user. Don't be afraid of asking the user. As the Californian architect Richard Neutra used to do, asking the client about all aspects of his daily life. These are one page of one of the detailed answers he used to receive from his clients. As a result of working with Mediterranean environment, the research on climatic devices, lightweight Mediterranean domestic architecture has to be full of devices to deal with such a changing, variable climate. Fragility. That's an important point, because I think the degree of fragility we can handle is a cultural heritage. How much fragile is a building depends on the concept of fragility that we have depends on our cultural background. What is very fragile here in Spain could be not very fragile in Japan, for example. So there's a path to think about that, because if we think that fragility is something that depends on how the user consider, treats, maintain the construction, if we think about that, we could be more free to bring lightweight architecture to the field of Mediterranean housing. And so on. There were like a variety of concepts, mainly non-visual concepts, that we found in this journey through the modern architectural housing project, that gave us some kind of background to begin producing prototypes and projects, advanced projects, innovative projects of new ways of doing modern housing, based as a premise in the techniques of prefabrication and lightweight structures and light materials and so on. So we tried at that time to come up with the proposal of a system that could be another step in the universe of prefabricated lightweight system, and that somehow could have something of these conceptual components. And that's what we call the first of our proposals, who was called the furniture kit system. Furniture kit system. We thought of the house made of a series of pieces based in the scale, in the appeal of a furniture pieces. And the concept that give rise to the system could be formulated as follows. If instead of considering the prefabricated home as the sum of walls and ceilings, or as a set of rooms of spaces more or less predominated, if instead of thinking the house as walls, roofs, and so on, we think of the house, or we decompose the house in the different routines of the daily life, such eating, sleeping, watching TV, washing, storing clothes, etc. And we associate each of them to a piece of furniture built with dimensions compatible with to be assembled. Then we can conceive the industrialized housing as a kind of a partnership of furniture rather than an architectural container. And so we can imagine the house as something comfortable, attractive, and even fun. So that was the main concept, to think of the house as it were a set of furniture assembled together. Each of the furniture built with compatible dimensions and housing a specific function of the house. So this was one of the first projects we did by that time, who was a project for a social semi-detached house made completely using this kind of furniture pieces. As you can see, every piece has a similar aspect to that of a closet that you can buy in a department store, and even you can assemble by yourself. By putting them together, the house appears. So it's a system that could be easily industrialized, easily prefabricated, and also easily assembled by oneself. It could be, at a certain point, very user-friendly. These are one of the first steps of the research. We presented this project to a national competition of new solutions for housing in Spain, and we got one of the prizes. This is another way to put the furniture together and producing another kind of, using the same number, the same kind of pieces of furniture. You see that here you find one layout, one two-story house, and then you move them and you can arrange it in a different way, so you can get another type of house using the same pieces, the same prefabricated pieces. This was one of the constructive sections, and you can see that there in the cut, you see the orange shape is one the two pieces of furniture stacked one upon the other. The next step was to move to another environment, not to the social housing, social single-family housing, to another area where we thought it was demanded a response to that kind of necessity. We moved to the problem of the immigrants in the fields of agricultural fields in Andalusia, where a lot of immigrants come searching for work, and even though many of them have contracts, certain years they cannot find housing. So could be a nice way to apply this kind of system to take it to this reality, substituting these responses they have so far, like using these lodging people in this kind of boxes. So we presented the system in another layout to another national competition for the lodging of immigrants, temporary lodgings, and we designed it what we call the Campo Hermoso prototype. Campo Hermoso is a small town in the southwest of Andalusia, in the area of Almería, where a lot of people coming from northern Africa and East Europe come in certain seasons of the year to help with the recollection of what they call the greenhouse agriculture. So we designed a prototype of temporary lodging for 32 immigrants using the same system, using the furniture kit system. There you can find that is bigger than the other one story, and we even made the fiction of putting in paper what could be having a company that supply material, furniture to build this housing. You see the same pieces as you saw before, forming another completely different shape of building. There you can find, if you look closely, you can find there, besides the predictable pieces that one can imagine inside the house, for a bed, and I don't know if I had that, for beds, for showers, for toilets, to sleep and wash, and let's say the night part of the house. And besides also kitchen, washing machine, everything else here, and space for dining here. You can find another type of pieces like this one, which began to appear by that time, that we call the breeze wind, the collector. This is one of the passive climatic devices we designed by that time, and inspired by this kind of traditional wind towers of northern Africa, we produced another furniture that, oriented to the dominant winds, could bring ventilation to the whole structure, to the whole lodging, putting them in certain points to produce cross ventilation in combination with another specific piece furniture, which is the small patio, small courtyard, which is inserted in certain points of the house here. So you also can prefabricate these pieces with compatible dimensions, put them in certain points of the house, and produce this kind of bioclimatic effect. Very important, very useful in that location. Almeria is a very hot region in summer. This is a big model we did to show the project. We got the first prize here. But by that time we weren't able to build it. We tried to talk with the administration, with the promoters of the competition, to find financial support to build a prototype, and it was impossible by that time. But at the end, using these precedents, we presented the project to the regional government, gave a fellowship to research projects, and we got one of those fellowship projects, and we were able. It was we're talking about the year 25. So we presented the project to the first call for proposals for research project in architecture and housing. So we got the first prize there, and we got 60,000 euros to build one prototype. And we selected one piece of this project. We came here. We got, like, if you see here, we have 32 people living here, and if you take a space for 8 people, you have this L-shaped wing. So we designed a small version of the other project, and we designed this. It was a lodging for temporary workers, 8 temporary workers in the agricultural field. Not in the western Andalusia now, but in the eastern one. Again, not in the eastern one, which was Almeria, but in the western one, was Huelva, for immigrants in the fields of strawberries. No es fresa, strawberry no es fresa, es, I don't know what the word is actually for fresa. Okay. And then we were commissioned to produce detailed plans of the prototype, to make it feasible, to make it possible. So these are selections of the plans we did for that occasion. There you can see the set of furniture that you have to prefabricate to produce the whole house here. There you can see the courtyard, the patio. You can see the wind tower, another patio here, another courtyard, another wind tower here. The bioclimatic effect that you produce with the wind tower, with a ventilated, lightweight roof here. Interior space, detail, construction, detail section. Again, the plan, some plans of the construction project. And finally, for the first time, after several years, we were able to build the prototype, to prefabricate it in off-site in a factory and bring it to Huelva and build it in 1 week. This is the photomontage of what we wanted to produce here in the town council of a town near Huelva, Cartaya, gave us a space to put it near the agricultural fields. This is the place they gave us to build it. And this is the final result of the first prototype. There should be some interior. It's easier to see the composition of pieces of furniture in the interior views rather than the exterior one. They show you the furniture put one by the other. This is a space for dining and day space, and night space here with the space for the workers that come to Andalusia with no family, mainly men when they are single or they leave their families in their home countries. So they share these spaces, kind of a residence. Then the next step is an unbuilt one. Unfortunately, the economic crisis has its consequences here because we were very close to do a big version of that, like a small city, a Demountable city in Cartaya, in that place, because the mayor of the town commissioned us to produce like a lodging for 200 people there, and we began with the project, bringing them to the scale of a small city, the Demountable city. It was not possible, but it remains as a nice project of building a ephemeral city. And now I show you the next step of that research, which was another built prototype, now in the form of a family house. And for an event, special event, which was the international competition Solar Decathlon, which some of you know is an international event that brings to a certain place prototypes from all over the world of housing with solar energy, prefabricated housing using solar energy. That is a competition because at the end one or some of the teams, which are mainly university teams, get some awards concerning several concepts. And we took the opportunity to send the project to compete there. A lot of university teams all over the world send the projects, and then a jury selects, it depends of the year, a median of 20 proposals to be built. They give some money, and the teams also get some sponsors to build the prototype. So we use the same concept, the same kind of system to build during Solar Decathlon another prototype, but now for a family, could be a regular family, a nuclear family with one couple and 2 kids or 2 or 3 kids. So we use the same system now in a more compact way, using the towers, using the patios, using all this kind of furniture. The designing space for kitchen, for dining, for living, for studying, a small studio here, space for a deconstructed bathroom here with all you need for in the bathroom part. Put it in not in a room, but scattered in the house. And there are 2 small bedrooms here. So I passed the images quickly because the project is quite similar to what you've seen before. So this is the history of the competition of Solid Decathlon, which is mainly take place in Washington, but we competed in a year where Spain had the opportunity to organize the competition in Madrid. So we built the prototype in Madrid in 3 years ago. This is the project, some plans of the project, detailed project. I pass it quickly. And this is the process of building in transporting and building the prototype here. This is photographs of the interior space, the model again. I won't extend that, but now here the wind towers are more sophisticated, and it's a combination of devices, bioclimatic devices using the convection effect for using the. It's long to explain it. You have the oriented to south. You have the sun here that produces some convection effect for ventilation of the house. And at the back side of the tower, you have a ceramic envelope that uses a evapotranspiration effect. By humidifying it, you produce a cooling effect here in the gap, and this cooled air can be brought to the inside of the building, giving an effect of refrigeration with no energy consumption here. Some detail of the project that was built, you see, in the center of Madrid, near the Palacio Real and Catedral de la Almudena. And again, it was a almost Moorish concept. It was we tried to be very radical in this concept of having a house completely inward, oriented to the courtyard instead of being a house to the landscape. Could be a Mediterranean courtyard house, bringing the light and the ventilation and with small courtyards that worked as also as climatic regulators. That was the last prototype that we built using the system, the furniture kit system. We tried to do another one. We was on the verge of doing another one, but finally the promoter couldn't afford it. Which was built the minimum housing unit, what we call the R-Kit 18. 18 are the square meters that this unit has. For a couple, in a unit that with 18 square meters using the furniture system, but has everything that a house can provide to a couple living inside. A space for sitting and dining and storage and washing and ironing, the bed, movable bed, bathroom, kitchen, and even a small courtyard here. We did the whole project, and it was going to be showed in a construction fair here in Seville, but the organizer of the stand finally couldn't afford to build the prototype, so it was only a project for a small unit, the minimum house that you can do with the system. And that, so far, is the last project we've done with this system, in which we stress, or we have to say that we find three main features that could be interesting for this conference. One is the use of this special scale of prefabrication, not the big scale of a container scale, not the scale of prefabricate walls of roof, but prefabricating these pieces that could be easy transported, easy handled, at the scale of a furniture. So this special scale of prefabrication. Other interesting feature that I want to remark here is that the possibility of design by choice. You can use the concept of playing. You have the pieces, you can move it, you can produce your own design, your own house by working with these pieces as if you were working with a housing toy, a housing play. Another interesting feature is the possibility of easy dismountability. You only need to using a screw to dismount it. You can take the pieces of furniture to another location easily. So these three, I think these are the main features of the system that are somehow related to this conference, which is this special scale of prefabrication, lightweight prefabrication. The second one is design by choice, and the third one is the possibility of moving there easily, like in the same way that you move a piece of furniture in your house. And that's it so far. I don't want to finish. Let me abuse of your confidence and let me just 1 minute more to show you something that is not related to this project, but it's what we produce as the next step of our research in prefabricated housing, which is based in another completely different concept, but it produced a nice prototype, and it got some of the main awards of the next edition of Solar Decathlon in last year, and it was the prototype called Patio 2.12, Patio 2.12, that we built in Madrid, and I will show you some images to finish my presentation here of Patio 2.12. This is another kind of project, a prefabricated project, lightweight project, basing another type of scale of prefabrication. You prefabricate the whole room, which is somehow bigger than a regular room. It's not you see 4 pieces, and each one of them contains not only a bedroom, and a bathroom, not only a living room, but a living room and a kitchen, and this kind of bigger than a room pieces produced by its association around a patio, a complete house. I only show you some images without commenting them. That's the point. So the combination of the 4 completely prefabricated modules around a flexible space, also partly prefabricated, which is the courtyard, the inner patio. That's the project, and I'll show you the final result. Let me pass. This shouldn't be here. Let me, here. This is the project we did for Solar Decathlon, the prototype we built then. The inner patio, prefabricated modules around the patio, prefabricated roof, which is made of 2 layers, one of glass, movable glass, another one a pergola, and that somehow simulate this vine, a vine. Interior, exterior. You see how it's like put in the ground with no foundation. This is a general view of the event, of the competition, Solar Decathlon. As you see, there are a lot of solar panels because the house produced 3 times the energy it needed for the function. This is the audience visiting the house, the politics. And that was the prizes. We are very proud we achieved that by that time in the competition. And that's it. Thank you very much. That's it.